Hey friends, and welcome back to Sunshine and Serenity. And today we are going to talk about the flips and the flops of the summer garden so far. So if you are new, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. If you'll take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications, it just helps my channel grow. It helps me get out there to more gardeners be able to curate the content that everybody wants to see. So if you're ready to talk about some of the flips and flops of the garden season so far, come along with me. Okay, so every garden season is different, right? Everybody's going to have flips, they're going to have flops, they're going to have things that go well for them, they're going to have things that do not go well for them. So I'm just going to kind of talk about a little bit of what has gone great for me this year, what I have struggled with this year in the garden, because I feel like it is super important to be really transparent in your gardening process, because if everybody always sees like your garden looking Instagram worthy and like this is what you're supposed to strive for, and then when things go wrong in the garden or things don't go like you plan them to go, everybody thinks, oh, well, it must be me. I can't garden. I don't have a green thumb. I just need to throw in a towel. So I thought I would share with you guys. This is my second year gardening. I am sorry, it's a little dark, guys. I'm in Central Arkansas, Zone 7, and I live in the city. I am in an urban area. And this is my second year gardening, and so I just wanted to share with you guys some of the flips and flops of my garden this year to kind of encourage you guys and let you know that no matter how long you've been gardening, everybody still has years where they have great things and they have things that don't go so great. So are you ready? Let's go. So one of the things that has gone great for me this year is this is the first year that I've grown a lot of flowers, and you saw at the beginning of my video all of my beautiful zinnias and sunflowers. I have done really well in the flower department. So that has been, hang on. Oh, you little nasty. I don't know what that is. It looks like a vine borer almost. I gotta get this sucker. So, like I was saying before I got distracted by the vine borer-like insect that's on my flowers, I have no idea what it is. I have been dealing with vine borers. Flowers have been super easy this year. They've been very beautiful addition to my garden. I've been growing a lot more flowers this year to kind of interplant and help try to bring in the pollinators. So those have been a huge flip for my garden. They just look beautiful. They're super low maintenance. So that's been a huge flip in my garden. One major flop in my garden this year, as you can see behind me, this bed is pretty empty, right? Well, this was my squash and zucchini bed, and I say was because I have been battling pests like crazy this year. Like this year has been like almost triple the amount of pest pressure that I had last year. Which I thought was going to be completely opposite because we had frigid temperatures and 18 inches of snow, which is not normal for our area this year, back in like January, February. And so I thought, okay, well, the pests are going to be a lot lower. I'm not going to have to worry about that. I was wrong. So I've dealt with pests this year that I did not deal with at all last year. And because of that, I have been battling the squash vine borer. It has attacked my squash, my zucchini, all of my vining plants. It is not prejudiced. It has attacked my cucumbers, my melons. So I've been fighting that. And because of that, I have not gotten any squash or zucchini at all this year. As you can see, my bed is empty. I have had to replant, gosh, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times. And it just has not been a great squash year. So that was one of my flops this year in the garden. One of my flips this year, which also just happens to be a flop as well, were beans. So what I mean by this is my pole beans this year did phenomenal, my bush beans this year did phenomenal. But my pole beans have struggled. I've gotten hardly any pole beans. I've had to replant multiple times, different kinds of pole beans, and for some reason they have just struggled really hard this year. But my bush beans have flourished. I have planted a whole round of bush beans that I've already picked and pulled up, and then I planted 2 more rounds, and then I planted a 4th round in the place where I pulled up that first round. So I have had phenomenal bush bean production, just really not so great pole bean production. So beans are both a flip and a flop for me this year. Okay, another flip for me this year, you can see behind me, okra. So last year I grew okra and I got maybe a couple of pods. They just did not do really well. This year, however, see my okra trees behind me? They are doing really great. So we are super excited about this because we love fried okra. Me and my son love fried okra. We love okra and gumbo. So that is a flip for us this year. We did not get any okra last year. Well, we got a few, but not enough to really say that we got okra. But this year, we're getting okra. All right, so one flop this year that you can see behind me is cucumbers. As I stated before, I am battling vine borers, and my cucumbers, with all the rain we got this season and the up-down temperatures, they really did not start taking off until about a month later than they should have. And because of that, the cucumbers that I am getting are misshapen and they're on the bitter side, which tends to happen when it gets really hot with cucumbers. So that's one of my flops this year, but that's okay. I do have pickles that are put up, that I put up from another local farm that I was able to get some cucumbers from. So we'll be okay if we don't get any this year, but my cucumbers just have not done great this year. One flip, however, is my corn. So last year I did not get any corn because my corn plants ended up with a type of disease and they died before I was able to harvest any corn. But as you can see behind me, I have some pretty tall corn that's looking pretty good. So I'm really hoping that I get some corn this year, whereas last year I did not get any corn. So that was definitely a flip for me this year. One flop, however, as you can see based on this really empty bed for me this year, was my herbs. So I don't know what it was, but I did not do real great in growing herbs. This year was going to be the year that I planted a lot more medicinal type herbs, and I really wanted to establish 2 really full herb beds. But unfortunately, they just did not do well. So I'm hoping that I can maybe start some of those from seed for this next year and just transplant those, and maybe those will do a little bit better. But empty herb bed. And the last flip that I have for this year is my well, I have a couple that I'll kind of group in together, but my tomatoes, my peppers, and my berries. So I got great tomato production this year and pepper production, more than I got it all last year. And I got really great blackberry and blueberry production. So that was really great. My strawberries did okay. They weren't phenomenal, but they did okay. But these cherries back here, I am overrun with cherry tomatoes. But that was a huge flip for me this year, was my tomatoes, my peppers, and my berries. So as you can see, we had several things that worked for us this year in the garden, several things that did not work for us in the garden this year. A lot of that, we were dealing with a lot of unprecedented pest pressure, so much greater than last year. We were dealing with a ton of rain. We had a very wet, rainy season. Just rain after rain after rain. And we've had a lot of kind of radical temperature change. So a lot of hot, then cooler, then hot, then cooler. And we also had a late frost this year. So all those things which are completely out of our control, you know, those things happen, and it's just part of the learning process. It's part of growing as a gardener. You learn, you do things differently next year. This year, some of the things that I grew that are doing great for me may not do so great next year, as well as some of the things that did not do good for me this year may flourish next year. So everything changes, and it is not a picture of how you are as a gardener. It does not mean that you don't know what you're doing. It does not mean that you're bad at what you're doing. It just means that the conditions were not favorable for you to experience success in that area for this year. But you grow, you learn, and you do differently next year, and then next year might be your bumper crop of squash, or next year might be a bumper crop of something that you did not do well in the previous year. So we are constantly growing, constantly learning, and no matter how long you've been gardening, things are always going to happen that are out of your control. You just do the best that you can, and then, roll with it, and then hope for better next year. Right now I'm dealing with that with my fall stuff. So last year I did really well in my fall crops, seed starting and everything. This year, all of my broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts that I just started that are indoors, they have all gotten leggy. So I may have to actually pull those up and restart seeds for all those. So things happen. Just go with it. It does not mean that you are a bad gardener. Do not throw in the towel. It is okay to get frustrated. It's okay to feel like, like you need a break. That is totally normal. But just know that anything that you pursue that is a passion, you will have road bumps. Nothing is 100% smooth sailing. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little encouragement. I know that a lot of times on my garden tours, you see a lot of the growth and, all of that stuff. And I talk a lot about, what's doing great. But I want you to know that we have failures in the garden this year as well. Everybody is dealing with something that is not going their way this year. So I just wanted to be a little bit more transparent and show that to you guys, that not everything is easy. Not everything is doing well. Like I said, I've replanted my squash and zucchini, I think 5 times at this point. And I've just come to the terms that I may not get any squash this year, and that's okay. About the only thing that is growing is my Tromboncino Squash, and I've gotten one off of it, so I consider that a success. There are things that I grew this year for the first time that did really well that I was not expecting to do well, and that was a huge surprise. My garlic, my onions, my potatoes, I grew all that for the first time and got a harvest out of each and every one of those. So I consider those small wins and small victories. I didn't get any corn last year, but if I get one husk of corn, that was a win for me, because I did not get any corn last year. So, I look at those things like the small victories in the garden, and I remind myself of that when I'm having hard days, when I'm having days where I feel like giving up, or I feel like, oh my gosh, like I replanted my squash for the 6th time this year. I'm dealing with, squash bugs in my tomatoes for the gazillionth time. I picked off my 15th hornworm. Like, when I'm dealing with those things that I feel like are discouraging me, I think of the small victories that I've had this year, and I look back last year and see, well, how much further have I come and grown and learned since last year that I've applied this year, and because of that, I've gotten things this year that I did not get in the garden last year. So just continue to find that thing that motivates you and encourages you when things get hard. And then just keep on pushing forward, because if this is a passion of yours and you really want to grow your own food, become self-sustainable, and help fix a broken food system, you need something in your back pocket that will encourage you whenever things get hard. But I just wanted to do this video, let you guys know what are some of the flips and the flops in my garden, and encourage you to keep on going even when things get hard, because it is worth it in the end if it is a passion of yours and you want to do it for you and your family. But I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you guys are staying cool. We finally got a little bit of a cool front that dropped our temperatures here down into the, mid 80s, so that's cool for us down here in the south. But it's going to jump back up next week into the triple digits, so no rest for the weary, right? We get a brief break from the temperatures, and then we're right back up there. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Again, if you are new, if you'll hit that like and subscribe button, it just helps my channel grow, and it helps me to be able to share encouragement and tips and tricks, and just love on other people that may not get to see our content. So y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. Until I see you guys next time, friends. Bye.